Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Factor X number 3, cover dated May 1995. Now this is a really well designed, really eye-catching cover by Steve Epting. He is penciling and inking the art here, and I would say that this is coloured by Glynis Oliver, who's the interior colourist. It is a great composition featuring Dark Beast, and he is holding the unconscious bodies of Jean Grey and Scott Summers, so this is telegraphing a story point from the inside of the issue itself. What I really like about this is the way that Epting has inked this. So you've got this huge torso on the beast, but his face is obscured in silhouette. Just the slits of his yellow eyes peering out there menacingly. And I like the little ink splatter as well on certain portions of the illustration too. So what a great cover. Probably the best of the Factor X series. Let's open this one up to the first page, and it is a splash page, and that's another stunning image and piece of work by Steve Epting featuring this half cat, half bear mutant who is trashing a bunch of infinites there. And just great work on the anatomy of this hybrid cat bear here. A 9 foot 1,300 pound mutant hybrid of ursine sinew and feline fury. I like that caption. Driven mad by its confinement in this infernal place. That's the pens. That's really, I just really like that. Just stunning dynamic work. And then turn the page and we have quite the double page splash as well. In the center here we've got a great image of the two brothers. Havok there has been plotting to have his brother overthrown as head of the EMF, and also indeed to have him killed and moved out of the way entirely. And in the previous issue he caught his brother aiding the human resistance movement. Scott had helped Lorna Dane escape the pens, and he was caught on camera by his brother, who took a recording of it. I love this motorbike that Epting designed for the series as well. It's really great. So the cat bear is taken down by Havok, and the way that Havok's power works, the plasma bolts, I'd kind of expect that cat bear, or what does the writer call it here, a weir creature, that he would have killed it, but it turns out not to be the case. When we continue looking at the development of the story here, the creature springs to life again and rips Havok's back from behind. But Havok here is threatening his brother, saying, you're not the one to talk about responsibility, Scott, because Cyclops blames him for allowing the creature out of its pen. And it seems like in this series, every issue, someone or something is getting out of those pens. So the security there is absolutely terrible. we can infer that much. But anyway, Havok says there, you were expected back 2 hours ago. While you were typically incommunicado, perimeter guards found North Star and Aurora in critical condition down in the Alphabets. It's in Manhattan. But you know that already, don't you, brother? So Cyclops doesn't know what he's getting at. And then, as I said, the creature attacks Havok from behind, and Cyclops blasts it. Blasts in between the creature and Havok, rather. This is a great page as well. Great combination of the art and the colouring on this page. Now, I like Glynis Oliver's colours, in particular on the old Uncanny X-Men series in the 80s. And I feel that her transition to digital colouring, the digital colouring era, isn't 100% smooth. I think it's taking her a little bit of time to get used to the digital tech. And I also feel with the brightness of the colours on this comic, I like that. I like the bright colours as opposed to the dark, muddy colours of certain other colorists using the digital technology. But I feel like it's almost over bright, like she's still colouring for newsprint, and it's turning up, the colours are turning out much brighter on this glossy stock paper. So that is my one little criticism of the colours from Glynis Oliver here. I think the palette is great. It's just the way it's reproducing on the glossy stock. It's a little, just a touch too bright. And that's it. That's as much as I'll say about that. But look at that for an anchor image here of this weird beast attacking Cyclops now, leaping towards him, and then getting blasted by Cyclops. So he thinks here, careful Scott, remember what Sinister... Oh yeah, he's thinking here, I have a clear shot, so why am I hesitating? Maybe I'm tired of all the death around me, or maybe I just feel sorry for the dumb brute. But then he remembers Sinister's advice, because Sinister raised Havok and Cyclops, and that's why they're different from their prime reality versions, especially Havok, of course. A conscience will get you killed. At close range, the narrative captions state, Scott's optic blast cuts the crazed animal in two with searing intensity. Its death is quick and merciful compared to the unending suffering of its life in the pens, subject to experimentation by Dark Beast. So this is another great page, great top-down angle here on Cyclops helping his brother up from the ground, but Havok just is such an angry, envious person in this Age of Apocalypse reality. He doesn't accept his brother's help and says to him, you should be more concerned with watching your own back. Sinister's not around to protect you anymore, and some trespasses will never be forgiven. So Cyclops there wondering what his brother's talking about. You're not making sense, he says to him. And Alex says in response, you'll understand soon enough, that I promise. So Cyclops is not stupid, and he thinks to himself, I look into my brother's eyes and all I see is hatred and resentment. And when I stare into the faces of the prisoners, I see only fear. Why am I surprised? I'm the monster to them, the embodiment of their pain and misery. I was proud to be a soldier of the Ascension. That's Apocalypse's Ascension. I believed in the superiority of Homo sapiens superior, but now I see no strength in this institutionalized cruelty, no virtue in the oppression of the weak and infirm. I've risked freeing the few prisoners who might make it north, but there are so many. So Cyclops, despite that upbringing, despite the nurturing of Sinister in the Age of Apocalypse dystopian world, is still essentially a compassionate and noble person at heart with a conscience. Unlike Alex, who is, a real piece of work in this reality. Oh, by the way, I have to go back here to the credits page. I skipped over that. So the title of this particular chapter is Open Wounds. The writer is John Francis Moore. Steve Epting with Terry Dodson on pencils. And Al Milgrom doing the inks across the issue. So that implies that there was a bit of a deadline crunch here and Epting couldn't get the 22 pages out on time for the deadline. And so Terry Dodson was drafted in to fill out the issue, do a few pages. I'll point out his pages. This is early Terry Dodson work and just not on the same level as Epting. And so from my perspective, it's a shame that we didn't get Epting the whole way through. The lettering's by Richard Starkings and Comicraft, so digital lettering. Glynis Oliver, colorist. So let's get back to the ongoing story, and the scene shifts to outside the fortified walls, separating the pens from the rubble of old New York. And here we have one of these wagons filled with corpses going to the facility for Dark Beast to experiment on or convert into infinites. And who is hiding in the back of the wagon except for Jean Grey? So she's made it from England to the US in her propeller plane, and we have a little flashback here where she thinks back to the end of Weapon X #2 and the fact that Logan didn't stop her and allowed her to fly to the US to do something to warn some of the mutants there regarding the impending nuclear attack on Apocalypse's USA. So from this page to this, we have a switch in the artists from Epting to Terry Dodson. Now that's a nice vertical panel there, focused in on Jean Grey's face. Of course, Terry Dodson has some particular talent drawing beautiful looking women, and that's nice. And this is a good page by him, but some of the other pages just aren't as strong. And very clearly to me, he was looking at Adam Kubert's page here. So he is, what would I say, benefiting from Kubert's work here in terms of the way that he's drawn these 3 panels, this flashback. So Jean is making her way into Sinister's lab, and she is wary of the Black Tower here, because the Black Tower is this device that helps, or that rather is a monitoring device, a psionic monitoring device. It's powered by disembodied brains with telepathic power. We see them here. And Jean, in her thoughts, thinks about how she can't let those disembodied telepaths psionically numb me the way they do the prisoners. So she's trying to keep focus, keep her defenses up, hope the trust doesn't notice a single mind resisting them via the tower here. So because of the strain in trying to keep them blind as to her presence, she has to let go of the infinite there that she was controlling in order to make out that she was a prisoner being taken into the pens. And so now she continues on her infiltration of Sinister's facility, and she specifically goes into his sanctum, which was opened up in X Factor number 1 because Sinister defected from Apocalypse. And she sees there that the gatekeeper has been scrambled, the work of one of the older Bedlam brothers, or one of the Bedlam brothers, and we saw that in X Factor number 1. So she's heading in, and she's thinking back to the fact that Sinister contacted her and Logan and gave them data rods concerning Apocalypse's security perimeter in the Atlantic. And so she remembers here how Logan didn't trust Sinister, and Sinister's response was, "I do not care what you think of my motives, but understand this. I've no desire to see Apocalypse initiate a world war. Neither humans nor mutants will survive." So Sinister is a kind of enemy of my enemy type character in the Age of Apocalypse. He was happy to go along with Apocalypse's ascension up to a certain point, and now he's broken with Apocalypse. And so Jean here is thinking to herself, so now that mysterious Mr. S has hightailed it out of Dodge, it's time I improvise a new plan of attack, one that won't get me killed. But then she's startled by this wolf creature, and we've seen this before in issue number 1. It is the companion / is a pet of Dark Beast. And also my suspicion is, I don't remember 100%, but my suspicion is that this is Rain, Wolfsbane. So nice page by Epting, and we get more Epting art for the climax of this scene. So Jean uses her power to a TK blast to knock the wolf to the ground, and she thinks to herself, interesting, buried beneath the wolf's animal psyche is a decidedly human, well, there's got to be a human psychic pattern, and that's why I think it's Rain, it's Wolfsbane. And then she is attacked from behind by Havok. Now that's a great anchor image there, and Glynis Oliver using the computer coloring to delineate Havok's plasma blast with these concentric magenta lines. That's nicely done. So Havok says, this must be my lucky day. I finally have a rope to tie around my brother's neck. And Jean Grey, race trader, a known terrorist, shows up at my door. Too bad, this is so funny, he says, too bad your circus midget companion isn't here, but why look a gift horse in the mouth? Good dog. So the dog gets up then, not dead. And then the scene switches, and we've got more Terry Austin art for this scene set in Warren Worthington's club. It's like Rick's tavern, hostelry in, what's the name of the film again? Casablanca. So it's a haven where enemies out on the streets, where they have a kind of like a truce in the club. And also Warren is an information broker. So he keeps an eye out on everything. But it's been revealed in previous issues that Scarlet here, the cabaret singer at the club, is a spy. And she is feeding information back to the Human High Council in Europe regarding what's going on with Apocalypse and his prelates and his strength in New York. And here she is in the bathroom, and this is interesting because she's also Havok's illicit paramour, and human mutant interactions are forbidden by Apocalypse. And so she's there looking at a reflection in the bathroom saying, oh, this is not good. I barely made it through my last encore. At least the nausea is not as bad as this morning. Dear God, please don't let this mean what I think it does. So of course, what does it mean? That she's pregnant, that Alex Summers has impregnated her. And that could be something that ends up causing him a lot of trouble in the next issue. So she puts on a brave face. Warren greets her, and then we have the Bedlam twins here. And they're there to arrest Scarlet, saying, we have evidence that Scarlet's been working for the Human High Council. So she denies it. She says, I'm a singer, not a spy. But they insist and reveal to Warren, another of your employees, your bartender Karma, was brought before the Shadow King. That was in Amazing X-Men number 2. She named Scarlet as one of a number of spies positioned in the city. So she flees, and Jesse uses his power to stop her. He confuses her psychically, and she falls over. And he says the confusion will pass. And his little brother says, we're sorry, Scarlet. We thought it would be better if someone you knew brought you in. It isn't personal. And she asks for help from Angel. And he simply responds here. This is a nice panel here with the colour hold by Glynis Oliver. So tell me, does Alex know yet? So Warren, as I said, he's an information broker. He seems to know everything about everything. And he knows about her morning sickness and the fact that Alex has been having an affair with her, and he's likely the father of the unborn child. And this arrest of Scarlet was referenced in Amazing X-Men number 3. So that's a feature of the Age of Apocalypse series where events occur in particular issues primarily, get referenced in others, but the publication schedule is such that you might learn about something in advance of it actually being told in the main title. And that's very different from a crossover like Extinction Agenda or Executioner's Song, where there was a very tight monthly schedule and the story wending across 3 or 4 different books. Here, the way that the story is being told in the different titles, Factor X, Excalibur, Amazing X-Men, Astonishing X-Men, etc., etc. You can sometimes get ahead of these events before seeing them in the main title, and it doesn't bother me, to be honest, and it does imply then the interconnectedness of everything, but it means it's difficult to decide exactly what order you should read the issues. In any case, back to the scene, and still the Terry Dodson art. We have Jesse saying to Angel that Alex is head of security and he's going to find out. And Warren says then we can't see his face. He's kind of in shadow there, and it's hard to determine what he feels or thinks about anything. He says of Alex, he'll take her betrayal hard. But Jesse says, worry about yourself, my friend. First Karma, now Scarlet. It's only a matter of time before your much professed neutrality comes under scrutiny. And when that happens, not even heaven will be safe for the Angel. And we see him coming to terms with that in Amazing X-Men number 3. And he makes a decision to aid Quicksilver by giving him the information he needs regarding the location of where Magneto is being held and where Bishop is being held. So then scene switches down into the pens. We've brother versus brother, and Havok is cock-a-hoop. He says, there's so much to do now that I'll be taking over the elite mutant force. And Cyclops responds, have you been drinking? I'm ranking prelate. But Havok replies, give it up, Scott. We both know you're a traitor. And Cyclops protests, you're way out of line. And then they go down this spiral staircase to Beast's laboratory. Not this time, Scott, he says. Alex, follow me to McCoy's lab. I've got something to show you. And it turns out to be the captured Jean Grey, which shocks Cyclops because they have a past. And we're going to learn exactly what that past is in the remainder of the issue. So the Beast, Dark Beast, has a psionic inhibitor, a neural inhibitor around her head, and he is trying to get into her brain, so to speak. And she basically goads him and says, crank up the volume all the way, you flea-bitten sadist. You couldn't break me 3 years ago, you can't do it now. So Havok, just look at the evil delight on his face there. So well done by Epting. He says to Cyclops, he says, you're looking stunned, Scott. And now we go into the flashback. He was unprepared for this, unprepared for the senses-reeling shock he feels at finding this woman so close and so real, this woman whose image has haunted him since their first encounter. And I like the way the panel goes right off the edge of the page there as we slip into the flashback on the subsequent page. And you know what we get in this is a kind of like an implication that there's something fated about the relationship and connection between Cyclops and Jean Grey, between Scott Summers and Jean Grey, even in an alternative dystopian reality like the Age of Apocalypse. So here is what happened 3 years earlier. There was a pitched battle with Magneto's X-Men. Cyclops prevented Jean Grey's escape. Interesting to see her costume there, recalling her X-Factor costume. Destroying the second and third level processing bays before bringing her down. Sinister was ecstatic at the telekinetics capture, going on at length about finding the second blueprint for what he called his trump card. And of course we can see on the computer screens here the DNA strand of Scott Summers and the DNA strand of Jean Grey. So what is Sinister's trump card? Well, if memory serves, it's X-Man. It is the genetic product of their DNA combined. And the narrative caption then says, for months Jean Grey was treated as an alpha elite, given the best the Empire had to offer, and still she resisted. There was something about her spirit and dedication to her past life that caused Scott to find himself inescapably drawn to the rebel. So that kind of fatal attraction, that predestined, predetermined attraction between Cyclops and Jean Grey, written in here to the flashback. And then we get the origin of Cyclops' missing eye and Wolverine's missing hand. So Logan made his way into the pens in order to rescue Jean, and it would all have gone as planned if her feral teammate Wolverine hadn't broken rank with Magneto to return to the pens in order to free the woman he loved. And when the two finally came face to face, things went terribly wrong and cost him an eye. And there we see it. The scar, the three scars from Wolverine's claws, and of course beneath the visor, the missing eye. And then Havok, this is a nice panel here, another great anchor panel by Epting. So Terry Dodson on this page, Steve Epting on this page, and Epting for the rest of the issue. So Havok says to him, I like the way that he's just simply pointing at him there. He says, maybe you and Red have been working together ever since she was captured the first time. You created the perfect cover. Who'd doubt the loyalty of a man who gave up his eye? So there is in Factor X all of these schemes and plots and double dealing and double crossing going on. And interesting that Havok himself, who has that secret life with Scarlet, is now developing a theory that his brother has been in cahoots with Jean Grey all along. Not the case. And Jean says, are you insane, Blondie? Cyclops fried Logan's hand with his optic blast. He's no friend of mine. So Cyclops realizes she's covering for me. And he continues to protest. He says, you're grasping at straws, Alex. But Havok says, no, Scott, I have a field recording of you helping that crazy Dane woman escape. And that wasn't the first time. You've been responsible for a series of breakouts. So it's all coming down now to what seems to be the final confrontation between these two brothers. But Havok has the Guthrie siblings waiting in the wings in order to ensure that Cyclops is taken out. So Havok orders his brother to execute Jean Grey in order to prove his loyalty to Apocalypse, and Cyclops refuses. So now Havok just gestures to the Guthrie siblings to take Cyclops down, and they're only too ready and willing to do so. Cannonball comes out first, and then Elizabeth Guthrie, a megamorph, pounds Cyclops to the ground, and it's over, it's done. That's Cyclops taken out. And the one thing that we're kind of missing here is a cathartic battle between the siblings. I just can't remember if we get that in issue 4. I do hope so. What a great anchor image here. Top-down shot on the Guthrie siblings, Havok here, and the knockdown body of his big brother. And he's pretty much unconscious. So they walk away, delighted with themselves. And Cannonball has been elevated from Rook to Prelate. He asks Alex whether he would like them to kill Cyclops, and Havok responds, and with cruelty, no, I want him to suffer. So he hands him over to Dark Beast for his experimentation, and Dark Beast is delighted. And also, pondering on the irony, alas, poor Cyclops, even with your diminished ocular capacity, you should have seen that coming. So we are down to the last few pages of the issue. Later, Beast is experimenting on these kittens here, so that's just another way of communicating to the reader what a dark and cruel and sadistic character he is. And Jean is buying time in her dialogue with him, and she knocks off the neural inhibitor from her own head and immediately removes Cyclops' ruby quartz visor. So now his eye is open. We can see his missing eye there. His left eye is gone. Logan took it, of course, and he just blasts Beast right in the stomach. That's a great image there. And you've got that old Glynis Oliver trope, the red background there, for a moment of violence. Nicely done. Last couple of pages. So Cyclops says to Jean, that was a risky move. And she says, not as risky as freeing you, but I don't have many options right now. So they come around to trusting each other in the course of this page. And basically Cyclops says, you're asking me to openly rebel against Apocalypse? And he responds, and he continues, I made that choice the moment I met thee. So again, this idea that there's something fated and predestined about the relationship between Scott and Jean. So tell me, he asks her, why have you come back? And so here we go. This is what Jean is up to, and why she flew from England to Manhattan. The Human High Council have their big guns aimed straight at New York City. Before Apocalypse goads them into pushing the button, we're going to liberate the Pens or die trying. So that's their mission for the next and final issue of Factor X. And then we get this epilogue, so to speak, set in the throne room of Apocalypse in a citadel in Manhattan. And here's his factotum, Rex, and Apocalypse there. It's an interesting image of him on his throne. And he's ranting. And he says, I'm told that brother succeeded brother as commander of the Pens. And Rex confirms it. Yes, sir. That was the gist of the message from Prelate Summers. Alex, not Scott. Take a message to the new commander, says Apocalypse. The breeding Pens were a bone thrown to Sinister in return for meritorious services. With Sinister's defection, the Pens no longer serve my needs. Therefore, you are instructed to shut them down immediately. All prisoners will be culled. Let the weak perish and the strong survive. This has always been the way of Apocalypse. And what a monolithic shot of his massive head there. This upshot of the head, this 3/4 profile upshot. He looks foreboding there, and quite the menacing figure. Excellent. That's a nice conclusion to this issue. So this is a middle chapter. The one thing that is teased over the course of this series is a one-to-one fight between Havok and Cyclops. And as I speak to you now, I can't remember, did we get that in the 4th issue? I really hope so. So there you go. Well, stay tuned for future reviews in order to find out how it all pans out in Factor X. We're coming to the end of the Age of Apocalypse, to the final issues. I do hope that you decided, or that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Factor X number 3. If you did, please like the video on YouTube, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.